Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Personal Growth Talks podcast. I'm your host, Jason, and joining me today is our wonderful co-host, Julia. Today, we're talking about a topic that a lot of people struggle with: how to set boundaries with difficult people. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Jason. Hi, everyone. This is such an important topic because we all have to deal with difficult people at some point, whether it's at work, school, or even with family. Setting boundaries can help protect our well being and keep relationships healthy.
Absolutely. So, let's start with a basic question, Julia. What does it mean to set boundaries?
Great question. Setting boundaries means making clear what is okay and what is not okay for us. It's like drawing a line that says, I'm comfortable with this, or I'm not comfortable with that. This line helps us communicate our needs and limits.
That's a nice way to put it. Boundaries are about protecting our own time, energy, and emotional health. And it doesn't mean we're being rude, it means we're taking care of ourselves. Now, why is it sometimes hard to set boundaries, especially with difficult people?
Many people find it hard because they don't want to hurt others' feelings. Some people feel guilty or worry that the other person will get angry. But if we never set boundaries, we end up feeling drained and even resentful. That's why it's important to set them, even if it's tough.
Exactly. Boundaries are there to keep relationships balanced and healthy. But here's a big question. How do you set boundaries with someone who doesn't respect them?
Good question, Jason. The first step is to be clear and direct. For example, if someone is being critical or negative, you can say, I appreciate your opinion, but I don't feel comfortable when you criticize me. Being calm and honest often helps the other person understand.
I like that approach. Clear communication is key. So, let's talk about some common areas where people need to set boundaries, like with time, emotions, or personal space.
Sure, time boundaries are really important. If someone always expects you to be available, you might say, I'm happy to help, but I need time for myself as well. Or you can say, I can't meet right now, but I'm available tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. And emotional boundaries are also a big one. Some people may try to share too much negativity or put all their problems on us. In those cases, you might say, I care about you, but I need some space to focus on my own mental health too.
Right. Personal space is another important boundary. For example, if a friend or family member wants to enter your room or look at your phone without asking, you could gently say, Please ask me before you come in. Or, I'd prefer if you didn't look through my things.
That's very true, Julia. Now, what if the other person doesn't respect these boundaries, even after we communicate them?
If someone continues to ignore your boundaries, you may need to take further steps. Sometimes, limiting your time with that person can help. You might also choose not to share certain personal information with them.
Yes, distance can be a form of boundary too. It's okay to protect yourself. And for those who feel guilty setting boundaries, remember that it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's actually a form of self-respect.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remind our listeners that it takes practice to get comfortable with setting boundaries. At first, it might feel uncomfortable, but over time, it becomes easier.
Right. And it's okay to start small. Set one boundary at a time and see how it feels. You don't have to do everything at once.
And remember, boundaries can also strengthen relationships. When we're clear about our limits, it actually helps the other person understand us better. It leads to healthier communication.
Exactly. Well, we've covered a lot today about setting boundaries with difficult people. I hope this helps our listeners feel more confident in protecting their own time, energy, and emotional health.
Me too, Jason. Setting boundaries is one of the best ways we can take care of ourselves and it's worth the effort.
Thanks, Julia, and thank you to everyone listening today. Remember, you deserve to have healthy relationships where you feel respected. Don't be afraid to set boundaries when you need to.
Well said, Jason. And to everyone out there, keep practicing. Setting boundaries is a journey, but it's an important one.
So, before we wrap up, let's talk about how to handle some common responses from difficult people when we set boundaries. Julia, have you ever set a boundary and the other person got upset?
Oh, yes. And that's a reaction a lot of people fear. When we set boundaries, sometimes others don't like it. They might feel rejected or even get defensive. But remember, their reaction is not your responsibility. Setting boundaries is about taking care of yourself, not controlling how they respond.
That's a great point. Let's say, for example, someone asks for a favor, but you really don't have time or energy to help. It's okay to say, "I'm sorry, but I can't help with this right now." If they react negatively, that's their feeling to manage, not yours.
Exactly. And here's another example. If someone often interrupts you when you're working, it's okay to set a boundary by saying, "I need this time to focus. Can we chat later?" And if they don't respect that, you can be a bit more firm, like, "I really need this time for myself. I'd appreciate it if we could talk after I'm finished."
Yes, and sometimes repeating the boundary can be helpful. Sometimes people need a reminder before they understand you're serious. You can calmly repeat, "I need this time for myself," if they try to push again. Over time, they might start respecting it.
Another helpful tip is to use I statements. So instead of saying, "You're always interrupting me," try saying, "I need some uninterrupted time to focus." This keeps the focus on your needs rather than blaming them.
Yes, I statements are powerful. And what about when people try to make us feel guilty for setting boundaries? Like, if they say, "You don't care about me," or "I thought you were my friend."
Ah, that's a tricky one. Guilt tripping is a common response, especially with difficult people. But it's important to stay calm and not take it personally. You could respond with something like, "I do care about you, and that's why I'm being honest about what I need right now." This way, you're acknowledging their feelings without sacrificing your own needs.
That's a great response. And sometimes, just reminding ourselves that we don't need to explain too much can help too. A simple, polite, "I'm not available right now," or "I need some time to recharge," can work wonders.
Exactly. And if they keep pushing or trying to change your mind, you can simply repeat your boundary. For example, "I really appreciate that you want to spend time, but I need this time to myself."
Yes, staying calm and firm is key. And sometimes we might need to distance ourselves for a little while if someone doesn't respect our boundaries after we've been clear with them. Protecting our mental and emotional well-being is important.
Right, Jason. And setting boundaries is an act of self respect. It's about saying, "I value myself enough to protect my peace." And sometimes, this might mean spending less time with people who continually ignore your needs.
That's very true. And for anyone out there who's struggling with this, remember it takes time and practice. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're being mean. It means you're being kind to yourself.
And sometimes, setting a boundary can actually lead to more respect in the relationship. When people see you value your time and energy, they may start valuing it too. You teach people how to treat you by showing them what you will and won't accept.
Yes, Julia, boundaries really are a form of self-care and respect. And they can improve our relationships by making them more balanced and healthier.
Absolutely. So, if you're listening and feel nervous about setting boundaries, take it one step at a time. Practice with small boundaries and build from there. You'll get more comfortable, and over time, it will feel natural.
That's great advice, Julia. I hope today's talk has given everyone some ideas on how to start setting those boundaries and handling difficult situations with confidence.
I hope so too, Jason. And remember, it's okay to prioritize yourself. Boundaries are not selfish, they're essential for maintaining healthy, respectful relationships.
Well, thank you, Julia, and thank you to all our listeners for joining us today. Setting boundaries is a skill we can all learn and improve on, so don't be afraid to practice it in your daily life.
That's right. Thanks for listening, everyone. And remember to be patient with yourself as you learn to set boundaries. Take care and see you next time.
Bye, everyone. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this podcast if you found it helpful. We'll see you in the next episode of Personal Growth Talks podcast.